They said her fire would kill them all. They weren't wrong. Riven stood at the edge of the Pact's territory, silver flames crackling across her fingertips as the elders circled her like vultures. 16 winters old and already marked for death. Not because she was weak, but because she was dangerous. The kind of dangerous that made alphas nervous. The kind that got you exiled into the frozen wilds where survival meant eating scraps and sleeping with one eye open. But tonight, everything would change. Tonight, she'd find a dying king in the snow and make the worst decision of her life. If you're ready to see how an outcast became unstoppable, stay until the end. Drop a like and tell me which city you're watching from. The Northern Wilds didn't forgive mistakes. Riven learned that the hard way, 3 months into exile, when she nearly froze to death trying to start a fire without using her power. Pride had almost killed her that night. Pride and the bone-deep fear that if she let the flames out, really let them out, she'd burn down the entire forest and prove the elders right. They'd called her touched by corruption, a curse wrapped in wolfskin. She called it survival. The fire had come to her on her 13th birthday, the same night her mother died. One moment she was crying over the body, the next her hands erupted in silver flames that turned the burial shroud to ash. The pack healer said it was grief made manifest. The elders said it was proof she carried bad blood. Her father said nothing at all, just stood there while they drove her out, his eyes empty as winter sky. Now she crouched in a shallow cave, gnawing on half-frozen rabbit meat, watching snow pile up outside. Her breath came out in white clouds. The fire inside her pulsed with each heartbeat, warm and insistent, begging to be used. "Not tonight," she whispered to it, to herself. "Not ever again if I can help it." The rabbit tasted like leather and regret. She'd been following the same routine for 93 days. Wake up before dawn, check the snare traps, avoid the other predators, find shelter before dark. Don't use the fire. Don't think about the fire. Don't wonder if maybe the elders were right and she really was broken somehow, wrong at the fundamental level. A glitch in the bloodline that should have been cold at birth. The wind howled outside carrying voices. No, not voices, howls. Riven's head snapped up. She knew that sound. Pack hunters, moving fast, coordinated. Not her old pack. They'd never come this far north. These were different, deeper, older. And they were chasing something. She should have stayed in the cave, should have let whatever drama was unfolding out there unfold without her. The wilds had a simple rule: mind your business or become someone else's business. But Riven had never been good at minding her business. She crept to the cave mouth, peering through the curtain of falling snow. The forest stretched out in shadows and moonlight, the trees skeletal and black against white ground. For a moment, nothing moved. Then she saw him. A wolf, massive and black as midnight, limping through the snow. Blood streaked his fur, dark against dark. His breathing came in ragged gasps that turned to steam. Behind him, closing fast, came the pack. 7 wolves, all gray and brown, all moving with the precision of trained killers. The black wolf stumbled, went down, tried to rise and failed. Riven's fingers dug into the rock. Not my problem, not my fight. The gray wolves circled him, tightening the noose. Their leader, a scarred female with one missing ear, approached slowly. She said something. Riven was too far to hear the words, but the tone was clear. Victory, gloating, the satisfaction of a hunt well done. The black wolf's head lifted. Even from a distance, Riven could see his eyes. Bright gold, burning with something that wasn't quite defeat. More like rage, like he'd rather die fighting than give them the satisfaction of an easy kill. She knew that look. She'd worn it herself the day they exiled her. Still not your problem, the rational part of her brain insisted. He's going to die whether you watch or not. Save yourself. But the fire inside her had other ideas. It surged, hot and eager, responding to something in the scene before her, to the defiance in those gold eyes, to the injustice of 7 against 1, to the memory of standing alone while her own pack cast her out. "Damn it," Riven breathed. She stepped out of the cave. The rational part of her brain screamed that this was suicide. The fire part said finally. Her hands ignited before she'd made a conscious decision, silver flames wreathing her fingers like living jewelry. The light cut through the darkness, bright enough to make the gray wolf's head snap toward her. 7 pairs of eyes locked on her. "Hey!" Riven shouted, her voice steadier than she felt. Pick on someone your own size. It was a stupid thing to say. She was 5'0" and weighed maybe 90 pounds soaking wet. They could tear her apart without breaking a sweat. The scarred female bared her teeth. Walk away, girl. This doesn't concern you. Funny thing about that, Riven walked forward, keeping her flames visible, her stance loose, like she'd done this 1,000 times, like she wasn't terrified. I've got this condition where I can't mind my own business. Real inconvenient. The wolves fanned out, flanking her. Professional. Experienced. These weren't mindless beasts, they were soldiers. Last chance, the female said. Leave or die. Riven glanced at the black wolf. He'd managed to prop himself up on his front legs, watching her with those burning gold eyes. Blood pooled beneath him. Whatever wound he carried, it was bad. This is insane, she thought. You don't even know him. But she knew what it felt like to be alone and bleeding while others watched. I choose option 3, Riven said, and threw fire. The first wolf went down screaming, silver flames catching in his fur like it was kindling. The smell of burning hair filled the air. The others scattered, giving her space, reassessing. She's a fire wielder, one of them barked. Fall back to... Riven didn't let him finish. She'd learned in her months alone that hesitation got you killed. She moved, fast and low, sending a wave of flame across the snow. It melted where it touched, creating a barrier of steaming slush between her and 3 of the wolves. The scarred female snarled, Kill her! Now! They came at her from 3 sides. Riven's fire had always been wild, uncontrolled, dangerous. The pack's healer had said it was because she fought it, tried to suppress it, instead of accepting it. You're at war with yourself, the old woman had told her once, and you're both losing. Well, she wasn't suppressing it now. The flames exploded outward in a nova of silver heat. 2 wolves yelped and retreated, fur smoking. The third, bolder or stupider, leaped through the fire and slammed into Riven's chest. She hit the ground hard, breath knocked out of her, the wolf's jaws snapping at her throat. This close, she could smell his breath, meat and blood and hatred. Her fire guttered out, shock breaking her concentration. The wolf grinned. Not so tough without your... A massive black shape crashed into him from the side, sending him tumbling. The black wolf, the dying one who shouldn't have been able to stand, had somehow launched himself across the clearing. His jaws found the gray's throat and didn't let go. Blood sprayed across the snow. The gray wolf thrashed once and went still. The black wolf collapsed beside his kill, breathing hard, his strength finally giving out. Riven scrambled to her feet. 4 wolves down or fled. 3 remained, including the scarred female. Enough, the female said. Her eyes held a new calculation, a reassessment of odds. We'll remember this. Good, Riven said, her hands reigniting even though her whole body shook with exhaustion. Tell everyone. Tell them the fire wielder is back. The scarred female's lips pulled back from her teeth. For a moment, Riven thought she'd attack anyway, pride overriding sense. Then the female turned and vanished into the darkness. The other 2 followed. Silence crashed down like a physical weight. Riven stood there, breathing hard, waiting for her heart to remember how to beat normally. Around her, the snow was scorched and blackened. 1 wolf lay dead from her fire, another dead from the black wolf's jaws. Steam rose from the melted patches where her flames had touched. She'd used her power, really used it, and she was still standing. The black wolf made a sound, half growl, half whimper. Riven's attention snapped to him. He was trying to rise again and failing, his massive frame shuddering with effort. Hey, easy! She approached slowly, hands raised, fire extinguished. You're hurt bad. Don't... He snarled at her, gold eyes blazing with warning. Right. Personal space. Riven stopped a few feet away. But you're bleeding out. I can see it from here. Whatever they did to you. She trailed off, noticing for the first time the wounds. Not bites, stab wounds, precise, deliberate. Someone had tried to execute this wolf. Who are you? She whispered. The wolf's eyes met hers. Even dying, even collapsed in the snow, there was something in that gaze that made her breath catch. Intelligence, recognition, and something else. Surprise, maybe. Like he hadn't expected anyone to help him. Like he'd forgotten what mercy looked like. His eyes rolled back. His breathing went shallow. He was dying. Riven's hands clenched. Not your problem, she told herself again. You've done enough. Walk away. But she'd already made her choice when she stepped out of the cave. Okay, she said, mostly to herself. Okay, don't make me regret this. She dropped to her knees beside him. This close, she could see the full extent of the damage. 3 stab wounds, deep and professional. Whoever had done this knew exactly where to strike. The black wolf's breathing was wet now, labored. Blood frothed at his mouth. Riven had no medical training, no bandages, no herbs. All she had was fire, the same fire that had gotten her exiled. The same fire the healer had once said could burn, or it could cauterize, destroy, or seal, depending on the wielder's intent. This is a terrible idea, Riven muttered. For the record. She placed her hands over the worst wound. The black wolf's eyes flickered open, fixing on her with startling clarity. There was a question in that gaze. A warning. I know, she said softly, but I'm already cursed. What's one more bad decision? She let the fire flow. Not the wild, explosive flames from before. This was different, controlled, precise. She imagined it like she imagined hunting, focused, intentional, every movement with purpose. The silver fire spread from her palms into the wound, not burning the flesh but fusing it, knitting muscle and skin back together. The black wolf's entire body went rigid. A sound escaped him that was pure agony. I know, I'm sorry. Riven's vision blurred. The fire was taking more than she'd expected, pulling from somewhere deep inside her, some reserve she didn't know she had. Sweat poured down her face despite the freezing temperature. Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. The first wound sealed. She moved to the second, then the third, her fire growing dimmer with each one. The world tilted sideways. She tasted blood in her mouth. Too much, some distant part of her brain warned. You're giving too much. The last wound sealed. The fire went out. Riven collapsed forward, catching herself on trembling arms. The black wolf lay still beneath her hands, his breathing steady now, the wounds closed to angry red scars. Alive. She'd actually done it. You're welcome, she slurred, and then the darkness took her. When Riven woke, the first thing she noticed was warmth. Real warmth. Not the desperate, half-frozen state she'd lived in for 3 months, but actual, comfortable heat. The second thing she noticed was that she wasn't in her cave. She sat up fast. Too fast, and immediately regretted it when the world spun. She was in a shelter of some kind, crude but effective, built from branches and packed snow. A small fire burned in a ring of stones. Her fire, she realized with a start. Silver flames contained and controlled, providing warmth without burning anything. The black wolf was gone. In his place sat a man. Riven's hand went to her belt, to the knife she kept there, except her belt was gone. Her knife was gone. She was still dressed, but her weapons had been removed. Looking for these? The voice was rough, unused, like he hadn't spoken in days. Maybe he hadn't. The man held up her knife, then set it down on a flat stone between them. A peace offering. He was... Riven's brain struggled to process what she was seeing. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of build that suggested violence was always an option. Black hair, longer than was practical, falling into gold eyes that she recognized, the same gold that had stared at her from a dying wolf's face. He was beautiful in the way weapons were beautiful, all hard edges and controlled danger. And he was looking at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. You're a shifter, Riven said stupidly. Of course he was. She just hadn't expected, she hadn't expected him to be him. And you're a fire wielder. He tilted his head, studying her. A powerful one, strong enough to heal wounds that should have killed me. Yeah, well, Riven's throat was dry. Don't get used to it. That was a one-time thing. Why? Why what? Why save me? His eyes never left hers. You didn't know me. Had no reason to risk yourself. Those were council guards you fought off. Trained killers. They'll report what happened here. Council guards. The word sent ice down Riven's spine. What did you do to piss off the council? Something dark flickered across his face. I was born. Before Riven could process that cryptic answer, he stood. In the small shelter, he seemed even larger, his presence filling the space. He moved to the entrance, peering out at the darkness beyond. "They'll come back," he said quietly. "Not tonight. They'll need to regroup, get reinforcements. But soon. And when they do, they won't stop with me." Riven's stomach dropped. "Because I helped you. Because you could help me." He turned back to face her. "Fire wielders are rare. Fire wielders who can heal are rarer still. The council will want you dead or controlled. There's no middle ground." "Great, fantastic." Riven laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So saving your life just painted a target on my back?" "Yes." At least he was honest. She should be angry, should be furious. But looking at him, at this stranger who'd been dying in the snow, who'd somehow built her a shelter and tended her fire while she was unconscious, she mostly felt tired. "Who are you?" she asked. "And don't say it doesn't matter, because I think I deserve to know whose death warrant I just co-signed." The man was quiet for a long moment. Then, "My name is Exiled Raven." The name hit her like a physical blow. Exiled Raven, the Alpha King, the ruler of the entire northern territory, from the frost wastes to the southern borders. The wolf who'd united the scattered packs under one banner, who commanded armies, who made laws that even the elders bowed to. The wolf her pack blamed for everything wrong in their lives. "Oh," Riven said faintly. "Oh, fuck." Kale's expression didn't change. "I take it you've heard of me. Heard of you?" "My pack—" She stopped herself. "My former pack spent half their time cursing your name. Said you were a tyrant. Said your laws were strangling the independent packs. Said—" "Let me guess," Kyle interrupted. "They said I was power-hungry, ruthless, that I'd forgotten what it meant to run free, to honor the old ways." "Something like that, yeah." "And do you believe them?" Riven stared at him. At the man who'd been stabbed and left to die by his own guards. At the king who'd built a shelter for a stranger instead of leaving her in the snow. "I don't know what I believe anymore," she admitted. Kyle nodded, like that was the answer he'd expected. He moved back to the fire, settling across from her with the ease of someone comfortable in his own skin. Despite everything, despite the wounds that had to still be healing, he moved like a predator, controlled, efficient, deadly. "Your pack was half right," he said. "I am ruthless. I do demand obedience. The old ways they miss so much? They were killing us. Pack fighting pack, territory disputes ending in bloodshed, the weak preyed upon by the strong with no recourse." His gold eyes found hers. "I brought order, structure, laws that applied to everyone, even alphas, even me." "Then why did your own guards try to murder you?" His jaw tightened. "Because I discovered something I wasn't supposed to. Because I asked questions powerful people wanted buried. Because when you build something, there are always those who want to tear it down, especially if they can profit from the ruins." Riven pulled her knees to her chest. Outside, snow continued to fall, muffling the world. "What did you discover?" "The plague." The word hung between them like a blade. Riven's blood went cold. "The plague." Everyone knew about the plague, the sickness that had swept through the packs 20 years ago, killing hundreds. Whole bloodlines had been wiped out. Her own mother's family had been decimated. "What about it?" she whispered. Kale's hands clenched. "It wasn't natural. Someone created it, weaponized it, released it deliberately to cull the weak packs, the ones that resisted unification. And then they buried the evidence so deep that even I—" He stopped, took a breath. "I found documents, names, a conspiracy that goes back decades, involves some of my most trusted advisors." "Who?" "My former queen, for one." Riven's eyes widened. Everyone knew about Queen Sarah. Beautiful, cunning, beloved by the court. She'd been Kyle's mate, his partner in building the new order. "She tried to kill you," Riven said slowly. "Her family created the plague. She married me to keep me from discovering it. And when I got too close to the truth, she activated sleeper agents in my own guard." Kale's voice was flat, emotionless, but his eyes burned. "I survived because I'm harder to kill than they expected. But now I'm exiled from my own kingdom, hunted by my own people, with no proof and no allies." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Riven saw something she hadn't expected. "Hope. Except you," Kale said. "You have a gift that can't be faked or fooled. silver fire that reveals truth. If I return to court with you, if you use your power to expose the conspirators, no. Riven stood so fast she nearly knocked over the fire. Absolutely not. I saved your life, fine. That's done. But I'm not going anywhere near a court full of people who want to kill you. They want to kill you anyway, Kyle pointed out, maddeningly calm. The moment those guards report back, you become a target. The only question is whether you run and hide, waiting for them to find you, or whether you fight back. I've been doing just fine on my own, have you? He gestured at the shelter, at her ragged clothes, her too thin frame. 3 months in the wilds and you're half-starved. No pack, no allies, no plan beyond surviving another day. That's not living, Riven. That's just dying slowly. How did he know her name? She hadn't told him. Oh. He must have gone through her things while she was unconscious. Must have found the Exile brand on her wrist, the mark that identified her as cast out. You don't know anything about me, she said. I know you were exiled for your power. I know you're alone because people feared what you could do. I know you risked everything to save a stranger's life. Kyle stood, and suddenly they were too close, the shelter feeling even smaller. I know you're strong enough to survive the wilds alone, which means you're strong enough to survive the court, to do more than survive, to matter. I don't want to matter, Riven snapped. I want to be left alone. Too late. You stepped into this the moment you used your fire. His voice softened, just slightly. I'm offering you a choice. Come with me. Help me expose the truth. In return, I'll give you what you've been denied, a place to belong, protection, purpose. And if I say no, then I thank you for saving my life and leave. But the council guards will still come for you. The conspirators will still want you silenced, and you'll face them alone. Riven wanted to tell him to go to hell, wanted to walk out into the snow and disappear, find some corner of the wild so remote that even the council couldn't reach her. But she knew he was right. The moment she'd used her fire, really used it, she'd declared herself. The girl who spent 3 months hiding was gone. In her place was someone who'd fought council guards and won. Someone who'd healed an alpha king, someone dangerous. Why me? She asked quietly. You could find other allies, stronger ones. Kale's expression shifted, something raw and honest breaking through the controlled exterior. Because you're the first person in a very long time who helped me without wanting something in return. Because your fire is the only thing powerful enough to burn through the lies. Because, he hesitated. Because I'm tired of being alone too. The admission hung between them. Outside, a wolf howled in the distance. Not close, but getting closer. Kale heard it too. His head tilted, listening. They're starting their search grid. We have maybe an hour before they reach this area. Decision time. Riven thought about her cave, her snare traps, the careful small life she'd built in exile. A life of fear and hunger and bitter cold, but it was hers. Then she thought about the fire inside her, the power that had gotten her cast out, the power that had just saved a king's life. Maybe the elders were right. Maybe she was a curse, but she'd never been any good at playing it safe. If I do this, Riven said, I'm not your servant, not your weapon. We're partners, or we're nothing. Kale's eyes gleamed. Partners. And if you betray me, if this is some elaborate trap, you'll burn me alive, he finished. I know. I'm counting on it. Despite everything, Riven almost smiled. You're insane. Probably. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal? Riven looked at his hand, at the man who was either her salvation or her doom, at the choice that would either kill her or remake her into something new. She clasped his hand. His grip was warm, strong, steady. We have a deal, she said, but for the record, I still think this is a terrible idea. Noted, Kale released her hand and moved to gather their few supplies. We need to move. There's a safe house 3 days north, if it hasn't been compromised. From there, we can... A howl split the night, much closer this time, followed by another. And another. Change of plans, Kale said grimly. We run, now. They burst from the shelter into the freezing darkness, Riven's fire igniting to light their way. Behind them, she could hear the pack closing in, more than before, at least a dozen wolves, their howls coordinating, converging. Kyle shifted mid-run, his human form flowing into the massive black wolf. He was even bigger than she remembered, his presence dominating the space around him. Keep up. His mind touched hers. Pack bond, instant and shocking in its intimacy. I'm not Pack, she thought back, even as she ran. You are, now. They plunged into the forest, hunted and hunting, two outcasts against an army. And Riven discovered something she hadn't felt in 3 months. She was smiling. They ran for 2 days straight. Riven had thought she knew exhaustion. 3 months in the wilds had taught her what it meant to push past limits. But running with Kyle was different. He set a pace that would have killed a normal wolf, cutting through terrain that should have been impossible, his massive black form moving like liquid shadow through the forest. She kept up by sheer stubbornness and fire. When her legs threatened to give out, she burned hotter, using the flames to fuel her muscles. When the cold bit too deep, she wrapped herself in heat that turned the snow to steam around her feet. It wasn't sustainable. She could feel her power draining, her reserves depleting. But it was enough. On the second night, Kyle finally called a halt in a ravine sheltered from the wind. He shifted back to human form, breathing hard, his skin sheened with sweat despite the freezing temperature. You're stronger than I thought, he said. Riven collapsed against a rock, her fire guttering out. You're crazier than I thought. What kind of alpha runs his own people into the ground? The kind who's being hunted by 20 council guards and doesn't have the luxury of rest stops. But he settled beside her, close enough that she could feel his body heat. We lost them. For now. For now. Riven closed her eyes. Every muscle screamed. How much farther to the safe house? Half a day? Maybe less if we push. Of course we're pushing, she laughed, hollow and tired. Why would we not push? Kale was quiet for a moment, then, you could still leave. I'd understand. Shut up. I'm serious. This gets worse before it gets better. The court, it's not like the pacts you knew. It's politics and poison, hidden knives and pretty smiles. People will smile while planning your death. Sounds delightful. Riven cracked one eye open. You really know how to sell a partnership. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. I'm trying to be honest. Then be honest about this. What happens when we get to court? What's your actual plan? Kale stared out at the darkness. I return as the Alpha King. I invoke the right of challenge against those who betrayed me. And I use your fire to prove their guilt in front of the entire court. No secret trials, no hidden evidence. Public, undeniable. And if they don't let you challenge them, they have to. It's pack law, older than the council, older than the kingdom. Any wolf can challenge another for grievance. They'd have to break their own rules to deny me. And if they do anyway, his eyes met hers, gold and burning. Then we fight our way out and burn the whole rotten structure down. Riven should have been horrified, should have recognized the madness in that plan. Instead, she felt something dangerous unfurling in her chest, something that tasted like vindication. I'm starting to see why they tried to kill you, she said, because I'm inconvenient. Because you actually believe in your own laws, even when they don't. Kael's expression shifted. My father built this kingdom on the idea that power had to answer to something bigger than itself. That strength without justice was just tyranny with better marketing. I watched him die defending that principle. I'm not about to let it die with him. There was pain in his voice, old and deep. Riven recognized it, the kind that came from losing someone who mattered. How long ago? She asked quietly. 5 years. Hunting accident. His jaw tightened. Or that's what they called it. I've had my suspicions. You think it was murder? I think my father was getting too close to the truth about the plague. I think certain people wanted him silenced, and I think... He stopped, took a breath. I think I was too blind to see it, until it was too late. Riven didn't know what to say to that. Didn't have words for grief that size. So she did what she'd learned to do in the wilds. She sat with the silence, let it be what it was. After a while, Kael spoke again. Your turn. What got you exiled? I told you. The fire. That's what, not why. What actually happened? Riven's hands clenched. She didn't talk about this. Hadn't talked about it in 3 months. Not even to herself. But Kael had trusted her with his secrets. Fair was fair. My mother died, she said. the words tasting like ash. Blood fever, fast and brutal. One day she was fine, the next she was gone. I was 13. Didn't understand, didn't know how to process it. So when they brought her to the burning grounds, when they laid her out for the funeral fire, I broke. The memory hit her like a physical blow, her mother's body wrapped in white cloth, the elders chanting, her father standing stone-faced and silent. The fire came out of me, Riven continued. Not normal flame. This silver stuff, hot enough to turn the burial shroud to nothing in seconds. The elders freaked out, said I'd cursed the ceremony, that my grief was tainted, that I carried bad blood. Did they try to help you control it? Are you kidding? They branded me, stuck me in isolation, told me if I ever used the fire again, they'd kill me themselves. Her voice cracked. I spent 3 years terrified of my own power, 3 years suppressing it, hiding it, hating it, and myself. What changed? I got caught. Another kid in the pack, younger than me, fell through ice. I pulled her out, but she was hypothermic, dying. I used the fire to warm her, saved her life. Riven's laugh was bitter. The elders saw it as proof I couldn't be controlled, said I disobeyed direct orders, so they exiled me. The girl I saved testified against me. Kael's hand found hers in the darkness. His grip was warm, solid. I'm sorry. Don't be, I'm not. And the strange thing was, she meant it. That girl showed me who she really was, who they all really were. Better to know the truth than live the lie. Still, betrayal hurts. Yeah. Riven squeezed his hand. It does. They sat like that for a while, two outcasts sharing warmth in the cold. Riven felt something shifting between them, some barrier dissolving. This wasn't just partnership anymore. It was something deeper, something that scared her more than the council guards. We should sleep, Kael said finally, but he didn't let go of her hand. A few hours at least. You take first watch, Riven mumbled, already half gone. Wake me if anything tries to kill us. Will do. She drifted off with his hand in hers, and for the first time in months, she didn't dream of burning. The safe house turned out to be a trap. They reached it just after dawn, a stone structure built into the side of a cliff, invisible unless you knew where to look. Kael approached cautiously, every sense alert, while Riven hung back with her fire ready. Something's wrong, he said quietly. Define wrong. It's too quiet. There should be guards, lookouts. He shifted to wolf form, scenting the air. Blood. Recent. Riven's stomach dropped. How recent? Hours. They found the bodies inside. 3 wolves, loyal to Kael, stationed here to maintain the safe house. All dead, all killed with the same professional precision as Kael's attempted execution. They knew, Riven whispered. They knew you'd come here. Kael shifted back, his face carved from stone. Which means they know all my safe houses, all my contingencies. He moved through the space, checking for anything salvageable. We're completely exposed. So what do? He turned to face her, and his expression made her blood run cold. We stop running. We go straight to the capital. That's insane. That's exactly what they want. Maybe. Or maybe they expect us to keep running, to exhaust ourselves, fleeing from safe house to safe house while they pick us off. Kael's eyes burned. The capital is where the court gathers, where the laws still mean something, at least publicly. If I can get inside, invoke the right of challenge in front of witnesses, they can't silence me without revealing themselves. They'll try anyway. Let them try. He started gathering supplies. Weapons, travel rations, a worn cloak that had belonged to one of the dead guards. I'm done hiding, done letting them control the narrative. Riven watched him work, this king who'd been reduced to scavenging from the dead. He moved with purpose, with determination, but she could see the grief underneath. These weren't just guards to him. They were people he'd known, trusted, people who'd died because they'd stayed loyal. Kael, she said quietly, even if we make it to the capital, even if you invoke the challenge, they'll come for me. They'll say I'm manipulating you, that my fire is a trick, that let them. He faced her fully. You stood with me when you had every reason not to. You saved my life, fought beside me, trusted me with your story. If they come for you, they come through me. The words hit her harder than they should have. This was tactical, she told herself. Strategic. He needed her fire to prove the conspiracy. But the way he looked at her suggested it was more than that. Partners, she said, echoing their agreement. Partners, he confirmed. They left the safe house at a run, heading south toward the capital, toward the heart of the kingdom that wanted them dead. The journey took 3 more days of brutal travel. They avoided settlements, stuck to game trails and hidden paths, moving like ghosts through territory that should have been familiar to Kael, but now felt hostile. On the second day, they encountered a patrol. Not council guards this time. Regular army, 6 wolves in formation, doing routine border checks. "Let me handle this," Kael murmured. He stepped out of the tree line, hands visible, posture non-threatening. "Good morning." The patrol leader, a grizzled female with sergeant stripes, froze. Her eyes widened. "My king?" "Sergeant Vera." Kael's voice carried command, even disheveled and wounded. "I need your report. What's the official story about my absence?" Vera glanced at her squad. They looked uncertain, hands drifting toward weapons. "Sir, we were told you were on a diplomatic mission, Northern Territories, radio silence for security. And you believe that?" Vera hesitated. "There have been rumors. Talk that you'd been challenged, overthrown, but nothing official." "The truth is simpler. I was betrayed by my own council and left for dead. I'm returning to invoke the right of challenge against those responsible." Kael's gold eyes swept the patrol. "You can let me pass, join me, or try to stop me. Choose." The silence stretched tight. Then Vera dropped to one knee. "My king, command us." The rest of the patrol followed her down. Relief flickered across Kael's face, quickly masked. "Stand. I need you to spread word that I'm alive and returning. Tell the loyal pacts to gather at the capital. Public challenge, 3 days from now. Can you do that without being caught?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Go." They scattered like smoke, leaving Kael and Riven alone again. "That could have gone worse," Riven said. "It'll get worse." Kael watched the patrol disappear. "Once word spreads that I'm alive, the conspirators will panic. They'll accelerate their plans." Meaning we're about to walk into a war. He wasn't wrong. They reached the capital on the evening of the 3rd day, and Riven's first glimpse of it stole her breath. The city sprawled across a valley, thousands of structures built from stone and timber, smoke rising from countless chimneys. At the center stood the palace, a massive fortress carved into the mountain itself, walls 50 feet high, towers reaching toward the sky. It was beautiful and terrible and completely overwhelming. "That's where we're going?" Riven asked faintly. "That's home." Kael's expression was complicated. Or it was. They entered through the trade gate, posing as travelers. Kael kept his hood up, his distinctive features hidden, while Riven tried not to gawk at everything. The city was alive with movement. Merchants hawking goods, children playing in the streets, wolves in human form going about their daily lives. So many people, so much noise and color and chaos. Riven had never felt more out of place. "Stay close," Kael murmured. "Don't use your fire unless absolutely necessary. We need to reach the palace without alerting." Well, what do we have here?" The voice came from behind them. They turned to find 3 wolves blocking their path, city guard, judging by the uniforms. The speaker, a young male with a cruel smile, looked Kael up and down. "Bit late for travelers to be entering the city," he said. "State your business." "Passing through," Kael said, his voice neutral. "We'll be gone by morning." "Don't think so." The guard stepped closer. "See, we've got orders to watch for suspicious individuals, and you—" He reached for Kael's hood. Kael caught his wrist. Fast. Precise. "Don't!" The guard's smile vanished. "That's assaulting an officer. You just bought yourself a cell." His companions moved to flank them. Riven's hands heated, fire ready to ignite. "Stand down," Kael said quietly. We know who you are." A new voice, female and cold. A woman stepped from the shadows, flanked by a dozen more guards. She was beautiful in a sharp, calculated way, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes like chips of ice. Riven felt Kael go absolutely still. "Hello, Sarah," he said. Queen Sarah, the woman who'd tried to have him killed. She smiled, and it was like watching a snake bare its fangs. Darling, we've been so worried. When you disappeared during your diplomatic mission, we feared the worst. I'm sure you did. And you've brought a guest. Sarah's gaze shifted to Riven, and something predatory flickered in her expression. How thoughtful. We could always use more servants in the palace. Riven's fire ignited reflexively. Silver flames wreathed her hands, bright in the gathering dusk. Sarah's guards tensed, weapons drawn. A fire wielder, Sarah murmured. How absolutely fascinating, and so very illegal, bringing unauthorized magic into the capital. She's with me, Kael said, under my protection. Your protection means very little these days, I'm afraid. Sarah gestured, and the guards closed in. You see, in your absence, the council has been running things, and they've decided that your instability has become a liability. You're to be held pending a competency hearing. I invoke the right of challenge. The words rang out clear and unmistakable. Around them, civilians stopped to stare. Word would spread like wildfire. The king had returned, and he was invoking ancient law. Sarah's mask slipped for just a second, fury flashing across her face. Then she smiled again. Of course, how traditional. The challenge will be scheduled according to protocol. In the meantime, she nodded to her guards, take them both into custody, for their own protection. Like hell, Riven snarled. She threw fire. The guards scattered, the civilians screamed, and chaos erupted in the street. Kael shifted mid-movement, his wolf form bursting through his clothes, and lunged for the nearest threat. Riven didn't have a plan, didn't have training. All she had was fire and fury and 3 months of surviving alone. It turned out to be enough. She moved like the wilds had taught her, fast, unpredictable, using her smaller size as an advantage. A guard came at her with a spear. She dodged, grabbed the shaft, and sent fire racing up the wood. He dropped it with a curse. Another attacked from behind. Kael intercepted, his jaws finding the wolf's throat, not killing but incapacitating. They fought back to back, surrounded, outnumbered, but refusing to fall. The palace, Kael's voice in her head. We have to reach the palace. How? Run! They broke through the circle of guards, sprinting down the street with the entire city guard in pursuit. Civilians dove for cover. Merchants abandoned their stalls. Someone was ringing alarm bells, the sound echoing off stone walls. Riven's lungs burned. Her fire was depleting fast, too much output too quickly. But she kept running, following Kael's black form as he wove through streets he knew by heart. They reached the palace gates. They were closed, locked. 50 feet of solid iron standing between them and sanctuary. Kael, Riven gasped. We're trapped. No. He shifted back, his face determined. We're making a statement. He turned to face the pursuing guards. Behind them, a crowd was gathering. Civilians drawn by the commotion. Word was spreading fast. The king had returned. The king was fighting the queen's guards. This was the moment, right here, public, witnessed. I am Kael Draven, he shouted, his voice carrying across the plaza. Alpha King by right of blood and law. I invoke the right of challenge against those who betrayed me, who murdered my father, who created the plague that killed our people. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah pushed through the guards, her composure cracking. He's delusional, grief-mad. Ignore his, I have proof, Kael continued. Documents, witnesses, and a fire wielder whose flames reveal truth from lies. Every eye turned to Riven. She stood there, silver fire dancing across her skin, visible to everyone. Undeniable. Let her test me, Kael said. Let her test the queen. Let her test anyone who claims loyalty. The fire doesn't lie. Sarah's mask shattered completely. Kill them. Now! The guards hesitated. They'd heard the challenge, seen the fire, watched their king make accusations in front of hundreds of witnesses. To attack now would be admitting guilt. Stand down! A new voice, old and commanding. An elderly wolf pushed through the crowd, his gray hair marking him as an elder. The right of challenge has been invoked. According to law, the accused must answer or forfeit by default. Other elders emerged from the crowd, nodding agreement. The old laws still had weight, even here. Sarah's face twisted with rage. This isn't over. No, Kael agreed. It's just beginning. The palace gates groaned open from the inside. A figure stood in the entrance, an older male in council robes, his expression grave. "The challenge is acknowledged," he announced. "The accused will answer 3 days hence before the full court, as is tradition. Until then, both challengers and challenged will be housed in the palace under guard. Neutral ground." It wasn't perfect, but it was better than death in the street. Kael took Riven's hand. Together, they walked through the gates into the heart of the kingdom that feared them. The crowd watched in silence, and Riven realized that she'd just become the most dangerous person in the capital. The girl with fire that could burn away lies. The girl who'd stood beside a king and called a queen a murderer. The girl who was either going to change everything or die trying. The gates closed behind them with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. The palace was a labyrinth of stone and shadows, and Riven hated it immediately. Guards escorted them through endless corridors, their boots echoing off polished floors that had probably cost more than her entire pack's worth. Tapestries lined the walls, battles, coronations, wolves in human form doing important things. The air smelled of incense and old money. She caught Kael's eye. He looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't, not with a dozen guards surrounding them. They were separated at the royal wing. Kael got dragged one direction, Riven another. "Wait," she started. "The challenger and his witness stay in separate quarters," the guard captain said, not unkindly. "Protocol. You'll see him at meals." "Meals? How civilized." Riven's hands heated. "What if I don't want to be separated?" The captain's expression didn't change. "Then we'll do this the hard way. Your choice." Kael's voice touched her mind, calm despite everything. "It's fine. They're watching for any excuse to claim we're plotting. Follow their rules for now." "I don't like their rules. Neither do I. But we need to survive the next 3 days." Riven forced her fire down, forced herself to nod. The guards led her away from Kael, deeper into the palace, until they reached a door carved with elaborate designs. "Your quarters," the captain said, opening it. The room beyond was bigger than her entire cave had been. Massive bed, sitting area, windows overlooking the city. Luxury she'd never imagined. Also a cage, no matter how pretty. "Meals will be brought," the captain continued. "You're confined to this room and the adjacent bathing chamber. Guards will be posted outside. Don't try to leave." "And if I do?" "Then we'll have a problem." He gestured to 2 guards who took positions flanking her door. "Get some rest. You look like hell." The door closed. Locked. Riven stood in the center of the opulent room, still wearing her ragged travel clothes, dirt under her nails, and felt the absurdity of it crash over her. 3 months ago she'd been exiled to die in the wilds. Now she was locked in a palace room that probably housed visiting dignitaries. She laughed. It came out slightly unhinged. Then she collapsed on the bed and didn't move for an hour. Someone knocked eventually. A servant, young and nervous, wheeling in a cart of food. "I'm supposed to help you bathe and dress for dinner," the girl said, not meeting Riven's eyes. "I can bathe myself." "Please, they'll punish me if you don't cooperate." Riven's jaw tightened. Of course they would. "Fine, but I dress myself." The bath was hot enough to hurt, scented with oils that made her sneeze. She scrubbed 3 months of wilderness off her skin, watching the water turn brown. Her hair, once she got the tangles out, fell past her shoulders in dark waves. She barely recognized herself in the mirror. The servant had laid out clothes, a dress, deep green silk that probably cost more than a year's worth of food. "Absolutely not," Riven said. "But I need pants, boots, something I can move in." The servant looked terrified. "Those are the clothes the queen selected for you." "The queen can select someone else." Riven pulled on her old clothes, still damp from being hastily rinsed. They were falling apart, but they were hers. "Tell whoever needs to know that I'm not playing dress-up." The servant fled. 10 minutes later, different guards arrived. These ones looked amused. "Refusing the queen's hospitality?" one asked. "Bold." "Stupid, more like," the other muttered. They escorted her through more corridors to a dining hall that made her previous room look modest. The ceiling soared 40 feet high, chandeliers dripping crystal, a table long enough to seat 50 people. Only 3 chairs were occupied. Kael sat at one end, cleaned up and dressed in black, his hair still damp. He looked like a king again, all authority and controlled power. Sarah sat opposite him, wearing a gown that probably required an engineering degree to put on. She looked like a queen, beautiful, poised, deadly. Between them, an empty chair. For Riven. "Ah, our little fire starter," Sarah said as Riven entered. "How quaint. You kept your rags." "They're comfortable." Riven sat, very aware of the guards lining the walls. Unlike this situation. Kale's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Sarah's eyes narrowed. "You have no idea how to behave in civilized company, do you?" "I know how. I just don't care to." "Clearly." Sarah picked up a wine glass, studied it. "Tell me, how does an exiled outcast end up as the Alpha King's star witness? What exactly did you do to earn his protection?" The implication hung in the air like poison. Riven's fire flared before she could stop it, silver flames dancing across her knuckles. Every guard in the room tensed. "I saved his life," Riven said quietly. "When your assassins left him to die in the snow. I used my fire to heal wounds that should have killed him. That's what I did. What did you do, besides marry him to hide your family's crimes?" Sarah's mask cracked. She set down the wine glass with enough force to crack the stem. "Careful, girl. You're making accusations you can't prove. That's what the challenge is for." Kale's voice cut through the tension. 3 days, public testimony. Your family's documents against mine. Riven's fire testing everyone's truth. "About that," Sarah leaned back, her composure restored. "I've been consulting with the council. There's some question about whether fire reading is actually admissible under traditional challenge law." "It's truth magic," Kyle said flatly. "It's been used in trials for centuries. By certified practitioners, guild-trained fire wielders with documented credentials." Sarah's smile was sharp. "Your little stray has no such certification. For all we know, her fire is just fire. Pretty, but meaningless." Riven felt the trap closing. "I can prove." "Can you?" Sarah gestured to a servant. The man stepped forward holding a small box. "Let's test that. This box contains an object. I know what it is. You don't. Use your fire to tell me what's inside without opening it." It was impossible. Fire revealed lies and truth in spoken words, in people's intentions. It couldn't read through solid wood. "That's not how it works," Riven said. "Then how convenient for you. You claim a power that can't be measured, can't be tested, can't be verified except by your say-so." Sarah's voice dripped false sympathy. "I'm sure you believe it's real, dear, but the court requires more than belief." Kael started to object. Riven touched his arm, stopping him. Because Sarah had made a mistake. She'd challenged Riven's power directly, made it personal, and Riven had spent 3 months learning exactly what her fire could do when she stopped being afraid of it. "Give me your hand," Riven said to Sarah. "Excuse me? You want proof? Give me your hand. Let my fire touch you. If you're innocent, it won't hurt. If you're lying..." She let the sentence hang. Sarah's face went pale. "That's barbaric. That's traditional. Fire ordeal. Oldest test in the pack laws." Riven stood, silver flames igniting fully now, bright enough to cast shadows. "You want to question my power? Let it question you." The dining hall went silent. Kael was staring at her with something like awe. Sarah looked trapped. To refuse would be admitting fear. To accept risked exposure. "The challenge isn't for 3 days," she said finally. "This is premature. This is you backing down." Riven took a step forward. "Interesting." Sarah shot to her feet, fury breaking through her control. "You dare. I dare a lot of things. Comes from having nothing to lose." Riven's fire pulsed brighter. "So either put your hand in my fire and prove me wrong, or admit you're afraid of what it'll show." For a heartbeat, Riven thought Sarah might actually do it. Might call the bluff. Then the queen turned and swept from the room, guards scrambling to follow. Kael waited until the doors closed. Then he started laughing, deep and genuine. "That," he said, "was spectacular." "That was stupid." Riven collapsed back into her chair, her fire guttering out. Her hands were shaking. "She's going to kill me now." "She was already going to kill you. At least this way you rattled her first." Kael's expression sobered. "But you're right about one thing. She'll escalate. We need to be ready." "For what?" "For whatever she does in the next 3 days to make sure we never reach that challenge." He was right. The attempt started that night. Riven woke to the smell of smoke. Not her smoke, regular fire, creeping under her door, filling the room with choking fumes. She rolled out of bed, grabbed the water pitcher, doused what she could reach. But the fire was outside her door, in the hallway, and growing. "Kyle!" she sent through their bond. No answer. "Kyle!" Still nothing. Either he was unconscious, dead, or blocked somehow. None of those options were good. Riven tried the door, locked from outside. She could burn through it, but that would take time she didn't have. The smoke was getting thicker, darker. She went to the window instead. 4 stories up, no handholds, just smooth stone and a very long drop. "This is insane," she muttered, and climbed out anyway. Her fire came to life, silver flames wreathing her hands and feet, hot enough to melt small handholds in the stone. She descended like a nightmare spider, leaving a trail of scorched rock, trying not to think about what would happen if she fell. 20 feet from the ground, a guard spotted her. "Intruder on the south wall!" he shouted. More guards came running. Riven dropped the last distance, rolled, came up with fire blazing. "Where's Kyle?" she demanded. The guards surrounded her, weapons drawn. None of them answered. "Kyle, damn it, where are you?" A flicker. Faint. North Tower. Trapped. Riven threw fire in a wide arc, forcing the guards back, and ran. The palace at night was different, darker, more dangerous. She navigated by instinct and the faint pull of the pack bond, feeling Kyle's presence like a compass needle pointing north. She found him 3 levels up, behind a door barred from outside. Smoke was seeping through the cracks here too. Riven melted the bar, yanked the door open. Kyle stumbled out, coughing, his face smudged with soot. "They drugged the evening wine. I woke up locked in." "Someone's trying to kill us." "You think?" He was already moving, heading for the stairs. "We need to get out, now." "Where?" "Anywhere but here." They made it 2 corridors before running into the council elder, who'd acknowledged Kyle's challenge. He stood blocking their path, flanked by guards, his expression grave. "Stand down," the elder said. "Both of you." "Someone just tried to burn us alive," Riven snapped. "I know, and it's being investigated." His eyes met Kyle's. "But running makes you look guilty. Makes it look like the queen was right about your instability." "I don't care how it looks." "You should." The elder stepped forward. "Because half the court thinks you staged this yourself for sympathy. The other half thinks you're dangerous and should be put down. Running confirms both theories." Kyle's jaw worked. "What do you suggest?" "Return to your quarters, accept protective custody until the challenge. Let me handle the investigation." "And trust the same council that tried to kill me?" "Trust me." The elder's voice softened. "I was your father's friend, Kyle. I believe you, but belief isn't enough. You need to survive long enough to prove it." Riven felt Kyle's internal struggle through their bond. Pride versus pragmatism. Fight versus strategy. "Fine," he said finally, "but Riven stays with me. Same room, same guards. I'm not losing her to another convenient fire." The elder considered. "Agreed, but no more escape attempts. No more theatrics. You play by the rules until the challenge." "We've been playing by the rules. They haven't." "Then prove it in 3 days." The elder gestured to his guards. "Take them to the king's chambers. Double the watch. And search every servant who enters for accelerants." The king's chambers were even more elaborate than Riven's room had been. Also more defensible. Only one entrance. Reinforced door. Windows too high for anyone to climb without being spotted. It was still a cage. Kyle paced like the wolf he was, unable to settle. Riven watched him from where she'd claimed a chair. Her fire dimmed, but ready. "They're trying to break us," Kyle said. "Make us paranoid, desperate, willing to lash out so they can claim self-defense when they put us down. Working pretty well so far." "No." He stopped pacing, faced her. "Because we're still alive, still together, and in 2 more days we expose everything in front of the entire court. If we survive 2 more days, we will." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I have you." He crossed to her, knelt so they were eye level. "You've survived Exile, the Wilds, council guards, and the assassination attempt in 1 night. You're stronger than they know, stronger than you know." Riven touched his face, feeling the rough stubble, the warmth of his skin. I'm terrified. Good. So am I. His hand covered hers. But we're terrified together. She kissed him. Didn't plan it, didn't think about it, just leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. He froze for a heartbeat, then kissed her back, his hand sliding into her hair, pulling her closer. It wasn't gentle, wasn't soft or sweet. It was desperation and defiance, and the certain knowledge that they might not get another chance. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Kael's eyes were molten gold. That was, he started. Stupid, Riven finished. Complicated. Probably a terrible idea. Agreed. He kissed her again anyway. They fell asleep in the massive bed together, fully clothed, her fire burning low between them like a nightlight. Guards outside, enemies all around. But for a few hours, they had each other. And it was enough. The next day, Sarah made her move. Riven woke to find servants everywhere, cleaning, rearranging, preparing for some event. Kael was already up, dressed in formal clothes, his expression grim. What's happening? Pre-challenge reception, traditional gathering where both sides present their supporters to the court. He handed her a bundle of clothes. You're expected to attend. The clothes were formal but practical. Fitted pants, a tunic that wouldn't restrict movement, boots she could actually run in. Someone had been paying attention to her preferences. Who chose these? I did, last night while you were asleep. Kael's mouth quirked. Figured you'd rather not fight about dresses today. Riven dressed quickly, then froze when she caught sight of herself in the mirror. She looked different. Still herself, but sharper, more defined, like she'd stepped out of the wilds and into something else. The reception was held in the throne room, and it was packed. Hundreds of wolves in human form, all dressed in their finest, all watching with predatory interest as Kael entered with Riven at his side. The crowd parted like water, whispers following them. Ignore them, Kael murmured. Most are here for the spectacle. At the far end of the hall, Sarah held court from a throne that should have been Kael's. She wore white, widow's colors, Riven realized with a chill. Already mourning her husband publicly. How subtle, Kael muttered. They approached. The room fell silent. Sarah smiled. Darling, and your pet. How cozy you've become. She has a name, Kael said evenly. I'm sure she does, though I wonder if she knows yours isn't the only one that matters here. Sarah gestured, and a figure stepped from the crowd. Riven's heart stopped. Her father. He looked older, grayer, his eyes haunted. But it was him, the man who'd stood silent while the pack exiled her. Riven, he said, his voice cracking. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I've brought a witness, Sarah announced, her voice carrying. Master Hale, former elder of the Northern Pack. He has testimony regarding his daughter's unstable nature. No, Riven whispered. Her father's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, but they have your brother. The words hit like a physical blow. Riven had a brother, younger by 4 years, barely 13 now. She'd forgotten about him in her exile, forced herself not to think about the family that abandoned her. They said if I didn't testify, they'd hurt him. Her father's voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sarah's smile was triumphant. So touching, a father forced to choose between his children, and he's chosen the one who didn't burn down half a forest in a tantrum. That's a lie, Riven said, her voice stronger than she felt. You used fire without authorization, endangered your pack, killed livestock with your uncontrolled power. Her father recited it like he'd been coached. Probably had been. The elders showed mercy by exiling you instead of executing you. Mercy? Riven's fire ignited, silver flames crawling up her arms. You call abandoning a 13-year-old girl in the wilderness mercy? I call it justice, and now you're here, corrupting the Alpha King with your... Enough! Kael's voice cracked like a whip. This is manipulation, blackmail, not testimony. Is it? Sarah's eyes glittered. Then let's test it. Let your fire wielder prove her father wrong. Let her use those famous flames to show he's lying. The trap snapped shut. If Riven used her fire on her father and proved him a liar, she proved Sarah was blackmailing him, but she'd also be attacking her own father in front of the entire court. If she didn't, she validated every accusation. "Do it," her father whispered. "Burn me if you have to. Just save your brother." Riven's hands shook. The fire pulsed, hungry, wanting to reveal the truth. But this was her father, the man who'd taught her to hunt, who'd told her bedtime stories, who'd loved her once before fear made him choose safety over family. "I won't," she said, and let the fire die. "I won't hurt you." Triumph flashed across Sarah's face. How convenient. The great truth-teller refuses to reveal the truth. "Because the truth is complicated," Kael said. "And you're using a child as leverage. Where's her brother? Produce him. Let him testify freely, or admit this is theater. The boy is safe, under council protection." "Kidnapped, you mean?" The crowd murmured. This was getting messy, public, exactly what Sarah had wanted to avoid. She shifted tactics. "Fine. Since the fire wielder is so squeamish about using her power, let's settle this another way." She stood, her voice ringing through the hall. "I invoke my own challenge, against her." Silence crashed down. Kael's hand found Riven's. "No." "Yes." Sarah descended the throne steps. "She's accused me of murder, of conspiracy, of crimes I didn't commit. I have the right to defend my honor, so I challenge her. Combat, tomorrow at dawn. If her fire is real, let her prove it. If she's lying, she dies." Riven's mind raced. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The challenge was against Kael, not her, but pack law was absolute. If challenged, you fought or you forfeited everything. "I accept," Riven heard herself say. "No!" Kael's grip tightened. "You can't." "I have to." She met his eyes. "You know I do." "She'll kill you." "Maybe." Riven turned to face Sarah. "Or maybe I'll burn her alive and end this." The queen's smile was cold. "We'll see. Dawn then. The arena. Bring your fire, little outcast. You'll need it." She swept from the hall, her supporters following. Riven stood in the sudden silence, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes, and realized what she'd just done. She'd agreed to fight a queen who'd been trained since birth for combat, a wolf who'd survived court politics for decades, a woman who had everything to lose and nothing holding her back. "You're insane," Kael said, but his voice held something else. Pride, maybe, or resignation. "Probably." Riven's legs felt weak. "But she has my brother, and I'm not running anymore." "Then we train." Kael pulled her close, his voice urgent. "We have one night. I'll teach you everything I know about fighting shifters, about surviving when you're outmatched." "One night isn't enough." "It'll have to be." They left the throne room together, the crowd parting before them, and Riven tried not to think about the fact that in less than 12 hours, she'd be fighting for her life. Against a queen who'd already tried to kill her twice. In front of everyone who'd ever doubted her. With her brother's life hanging in the balance. She was either about to prove herself or die trying. The training was brutal. Kael didn't hold back, didn't coddle her. He came at her again and again in his wolf form, teaching her how to read movements, anticipate attacks, use her fire strategically instead of just throwing it everywhere. "You're smaller," he said after knocking her on her ass for the 10th time. "Use it. Get inside her guard where her size works against her." Riven spat blood, got up. "Easy for you to say. Nothing about this is easy." Again, they went until her muscles screamed, until her fire sputtered out from exhaustion, until she could barely stand. Then they went again. Somewhere around midnight, Kael called a halt. Riven collapsed against the training room wall, gulping water, her whole body one giant bruise. "You're learning fast," Kael said, sitting beside her. "Not fast enough." "Maybe. But you're learning." He took her hand. "And you have one advantage Sarah doesn't." "What's that?" "You've already survived the impossible. She's been protected her whole life, surrounded by guards and comfort. You've lived through exile, through winter, through being hunted." His gold eyes held hers. "She's never really had to fight for anything. You've fought for everything." Riven wanted to believe that, wanted to think her suffering meant something, but she'd seen Sarah move, seen the cold calculation in those eyes. "What if I lose?" "You won't." "Kael, you won't." He pulled her close. Because I won't let you. If she kills you, she has to go through me first. That's not how challenges work. I don't care. His voice was fierce. You're mine. My partner. He stopped, swallowed. I won't lose you. Riven kissed him, tasting salt and copper and exhaustion. Then help me win. They made love that night, desperate and clinging, knowing it might be the last time. Kael's hands on her skin, her fire dancing between them, two broken people finding something whole. When dawn came, Riven was ready, or as ready as she'd ever be. The arena was an open-air pit in the palace courtyard, ringed with stone seats for spectators. By the time Riven arrived, it was packed. Hundreds of wolves, all there to watch an outcast fight a queen. Bloodsport dressed up as justice. Sarah was already there, dressed in fighting leathers, looking calm and controlled. Behind her stood the council, her supporters, and Riven's breath caught. Her brother. 13 years old, thin and scared, held between two guards. Finn, she whispered. He saw her. His eyes widened. Riven? One of the guards clamped a hand over his mouth. He'll be released if you win, Sarah called across the arena. And executed if you lose. Gives you motivation, doesn't it? Kael growled from where he stood at the arena's edge. This is illegal. Hostages aren't what? Allowed? The council elder from before stepped forward. Actually, in a challenge regarding family honor, immediate family can be held as surety. It's in the old laws. Laws you're suddenly very fond of quoting, Kael said bitterly. Laws are laws. The elder raised his hand. The challenge is acknowledged. Combat to submission or death. Begin when ready. Riven stepped into the arena. The ground was packed dirt, no cover, nowhere to hide. Just her and Sarah and the whole damn kingdom watching. Last chance to run, Sarah said softly. Leave now, and I'll let your brother live. Stay, and I kill you both. You're lying! Riven's fire ignited. Your family killed hundreds with the plague. What's two more? Sarah's mask finally, fully shattered. My family saved the pacts from chaos, culled the weak so the strong could thrive. Your precious bloodline was dying anyway. We just accelerated the inevitable. You're confessing. I'm stating facts. Sarah shifted, her human form flowing into a massive gray wolf, bigger and heavier than Kael. And facts don't matter if no one lives to repeat them. She attacked. Riven barely dodged the first strike, Sarah's jaws snapping where her throat had been. She threw fire, but Sarah was fast, circling, testing. This wasn't like fighting the guards. This was a trained killer. Riven tried to use what Kael had taught her. Stay mobile, use her size, don't let Sarah pin her down. She sent waves of fire to create barriers, forcing Sarah to circle, buying herself seconds to think. But Sarah was patient, experienced. She waited for openings, struck with precision. Her teeth found Riven's shoulder. Pain exploded white hot. Riven screamed and sent fire directly into Sarah's face. The wolf yelped, released her, backing up with singed fur. Blood poured down Riven's arm. She stumbled, caught herself, fire blazing brighter. That all you got? She gasped. Sarah snarled and came again, faster this time, angrier. Riven made a choice. Instead of dodging, she ran towards Sarah, sliding under the wolf's bulk, her fire igniting not to burn, but to bind. Silver flames wrapped around Sarah's legs, fusing into chains of pure heat. Sarah went down, thrashing. Riven climbed onto her back, hands blazing, pressing fire against Sarah's spine. Submit! Never! Then burn! She poured everything into it. All her rage, all her grief, all the fear and isolation and abandonment. The fire roared, silver turning white hot, and Sarah's screams filled the arena. But Riven didn't let go. Confess, she shouted. Tell them what you did. I'll tell them nothing. The fire dug deeper. Kael was shouting something. The crowd was on its feet, but Riven couldn't hear anything over the roar in her ears. She was burning Sarah alive. And she couldn't stop. Didn't want to stop. This woman had tried to kill Kael, had blackmailed her father, had held her brother hostage, had created a plague that killed Riven's entire bloodline. Confess or die. Sarah's voice cracked. My family created the plague. To consolidate power, we thought we'd control the cure, Louder! We created the plague, Sarah screamed it, her voice carrying across the arena. We killed them! We killed them all! Riven released the fire. Sarah collapsed, burned but alive, her breathing ragged. Silence filled the arena. Then chaos, shouting, accusations, guards moving to detain the other council members. Riven staggered backward, her fire dying, her vision graying at the edges. She'd won. She'd actually... Sarah's voice, weak but venomous. You think this changes anything? Riven turned just as Sarah shifted back to human, blood streaming from burns, and pulled a knife from somewhere in her ruined clothes. Your brother dies regardless, Sarah hissed and threw. The knife flew across the arena straight at Finn. Riven's fire exploded outward in a nova of silver heat, not controlled, not aimed, just pure desperate power. It caught the knife mid-flight, melted it to slag. Kept going. Hit the guards holding Finn and burned them to ash. Kept going, spread across the arena floor in a wave of destruction that made people scream and scatter. Riven tried to pull it back, tried to control it, but there was too much, too fast, fed by terror and exhaustion and the absolute certainty that she was about to lose her brother. The fire consumed everything, and Riven fell into darkness, her last thought a prayer that she hadn't just killed everyone she'd tried to save. Riven woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that came after disasters, when people were too shocked to speak. She opened her eyes to find herself in a bed, not the king's chambers, somewhere smaller, darker. A medical room, judging by the smell of herbs and the bandages wrapped around her shoulder where Sarah had bitten her. Kael sat beside the bed, his head in his hands. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Kael? His head snapped up. Relief and something else, fear maybe, flashed across his face. You're awake. How long? 2 days. He reached for her hand, then hesitated like he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch her. Riven, what do you remember? Everything came crashing back, the arena, Sarah's confession, the knife flying toward Finn, her fire exploding outward. Oh no! Riven tried to sit up, gasped as pain lanced through her shoulder. How many did I kill? None. She stared at him. What? Your fire. It didn't kill anyone. Burned the guards holding your brother, destroyed half the arena, melted stone, but Kael's expression was complicated. Everyone survived. Some burns, some injuries, but no deaths. That's impossible. I felt it. I lost control. It should have, Kael agreed. But it didn't. The healers think... He paused. They think your fire knew. That on some level, even out of control, it distinguished between threats and innocence. Riven's mind reeled. Fire doesn't think. Yours does. Or you do, through it. He finally took her hand, his grip warm and solid. You saved your brother. Exposed Sarah's confession in front of the entire court, proved your power is real. And terrified everyone in the process. Yes. He didn't sugarcoat it. Half the court wants you executed as too dangerous to live. The other half wants you controlled, bound, studied like some kind of weapon. Of course they did. Riven had spent her whole life being feared. Why would that change just because she'd saved them? Where's Finn? Safe. Under guard, but safe. Your father's with him. Kael's jaw tightened. He's been asking to see you. Both of them have. I don't want to see him. I know, but he testified against me. Let Sarah use my brother as leverage. Stood by while the pack exiled me. Riven's voice cracked. I saved Finn because he's innocent in this. But my father? He made his choice 3 months ago. Kael didn't argue, just squeezed her hand and changed the subject. Sarah's in the dungeon. Council members are being arrested. The documents I found are being verified. Everything's unraveling. Good. But there's a problem. Of course there was. Tell me. The power vacuum. Sarah was queen, half the council was complicit in the conspiracy, and I've been gone for weeks. The pacts are restless. Some are calling for new leadership. Others want the old ways back. No centralized kingdom at all. Kael's gold eyes met hers. It's chaos, and nature abhors chaos. What are you saying? I'm saying I need to stabilize things fast, prove I'm still capable of ruling, and to do that, he took a breath. I need to make hard decisions, starting with you. Riven went very still. With me. The court demands you face consequences for what happened in the arena. Loss of control, use of unauthorized magic, destruction of property. He recited it mechanically. They want you bound, restricted, maybe exiled again. And you're going to give me to them. It wasn't a question. No. Kael's voice was fierce. I'm going to offer an alternative. He pulled out a small box from his pocket, opened it. Inside sat a silver ring, carved with flames. Riven's breath caught. This is a bonding ring, Kael said quietly. Pack magic, older than the kingdom. If you wear it, we become officially bound, mates in the eyes of the law, which means your power becomes my responsibility. Your actions fall under my authority. You want to control me. I want to protect you. His hand tightened on hers. If we're bonded, they can't touch you without going through me. Can't exile you, bind you, hurt you. You'd have the full protection of the crown. In exchange for what? Obedience? In exchange for partnership. Real partnership, not just words. Kael's voice was urgent now. I'm not asking you to submit. I'm asking you to stand with me. Help me rebuild this kingdom into something better. Use your fire not as a weapon, but as a judge, Riven finished softly, remembering what he'd said before. Truth and lies. Yes, he held up the ring. I know this isn't romantic. I know it's politics and strategy and probably feels like another cage, but Riven, I meant what I said. You're mine, not as property, as something more, and I want everyone to know it. Riven stared at the ring, at the man offering it, at the future it represented. She'd spent 3 months fighting for scraps in the wilderness, had been exiled, hunted, nearly killed multiple times. And now an Alpha King was asking her to be his equal, to share power instead of cowering from it. It should have been an easy choice. What about love? She asked. Kael went very still. What? You're asking me to bond with you, to be your mate, but you haven't said anything about love. She met his eyes. Is this just political convenience, or is there something real here? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then he set down the ring and cupped her face in his hands. I'm falling in love with you, he said, raw and honest. Have been since you stepped out of that cave to save a dying stranger. Since you threw fire at trained killers without hesitation. Since you risked everything for a brother you barely knew and a kingdom that's only ever hurt you. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You're fierce and stubborn and absolutely terrifying, and I've never met anyone like you. That's not love. That's admiration. It's both. He kissed her forehead. And if you need time to figure out your feelings, take it. But know that I'm not offering this ring just to protect you. I'm offering it because I want you beside me, always. Riven's throat was tight. I don't know how to be a queen. Good. I don't want a queen. I want you. I'll make mistakes, burn things I shouldn't, probably start fights at state dinners. I'm counting on it. His smile was soft. So what do you say? Will you bond with me? Not because you have to, but because you want to? Riven thought about the girl she'd been 3 months ago. Scared, suppressed, desperate to be small enough that no one would notice her. That girl was dead. In her place was someone who'd fought a queen and won. Who'd saved lives with the same fire that had gotten her exiled. Who'd proven that power didn't have to mean destruction. Yes, she said, but I have conditions. Kael's eyebrows rose. Of course you do. I'm not decorative. I don't sit in the background while you make decisions. We're partners, or this doesn't work. Agreed. And my brother stays with me. Under my protection. No one touches him. Already arranged. And she hesitated. And if I ever lose control again, if my fire becomes too dangerous, you have to promise you'll stop me, even if it means killing me. Kael's expression darkened. Riven, promise me. I won't risk becoming the monster they think I am. You're not a monster. Promise anyway. He was quiet for a long moment, then, I promise, but only if you promise to trust me when I say you're in control, to believe me when I tell you you're not the curse they said you were. That's harder. I know. He picked up the ring again. But we'll figure it out together. Riven held out her hand. Kael slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, warm against her skin, and she felt something click into place. Not just the bond, but something deeper. a sense of belonging she hadn't felt since before her mother died. "There," Kael said softly. "Now you're stuck with me." "You say that like it's a bad thing." He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and Riven kissed him back with everything she had. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she noticed the ring was glowing faintly silver. "Is it supposed to do that?" "No idea. Your fire does whatever it wants." But Kael was smiling. "Come on, we have a kingdom to address." "Now?" "You've been unconscious for 2 days. The court's getting restless. Time to show them their new reality." Riven's stomach twisted with nerves. "What if they reject me?" "Then we make them accept you." Kyle helped her out of bed, steadied her when she swayed. "You defeated their queen, exposed a conspiracy, saved innocent lives. If they can't see your worth, that's their problem, not yours. You make it sound simple. It's not. But nothing worth doing is." They dressed quickly, Kyle in formal clothes, Riven in the fighting leathers someone had left for her. She caught sight of herself in a mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Scars from the wilds, burns from the arena, but standing tall, unbroken. "Ready?" Kael asked. Riven ignited her fire, silver flames dancing across her knuckles. "Let's go." The throne room was packed again, but this time the atmosphere was different. Tense, expectant. People whispered as Riven and Kael entered, hands clasped, rings visible. Sarah was there too, chained and kneeling before the throne, her burns bandaged but her eyes still full of venom. The remaining council members stood to one side, looking nervous. Kael led Riven to the throne, then turned to address the court. "I won't waste time with pretty speeches," he said, his voice carrying. "You all know what happened. My queen, my former queen, confessed to conspiracy, murder, and genocide. Her family created the plague that killed thousands of our people, used it to consolidate power, eliminate opposition." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "The evidence has been verified," Kael continued. "Documents, testimonies, financial records, it's all real, and everyone involved will face justice." "What about her?" Someone pointed at Riven. "The fire wielder who nearly destroyed the arena?" "She saved lives," Kael said flatly, "including mine, including a child who was being held hostage. And in doing so, she exposed the truth." "She's dangerous." "She's powerful. There's a difference." Kael's gold eyes swept the room. "And as of this morning, she's my bonded mate, which means any threat to her is a threat to the crown." The room erupted, shouts, arguments, wolves on their feet demanding answers. Kael let it go for a minute, then raised his hand. The noise died down. "I understand your fear," he said, and his voice was softer now. "You've been lied to, manipulated, used as pawns in someone else's game. You've lost family to a plague you thought was natural disaster. You have every right to be angry." He gestured to Riven. "But she's not your enemy. She's proof that power can be used for good, that strength doesn't have to mean destruction." "Prove it," the same voice challenged. "Let her use that fire. Let's see if it's really truth magic or just fancy flames." Riven felt every eye turn to her. This was it, the moment where she either proved herself or condemned herself. She stepped forward. "You want proof? Fine. Bring me someone who's lying." A pause. Then someone pushed through the crowd, one of the council members who'd been arrested. The man looked terrified. "Tell me you're innocent," Riven said to him. I am. I never—" Her fire flared and the man screamed as silver flames wrapped around him, not burning, just surrounding, revealing. "Truth," Riven said, reading the fire's response. He didn't know about the plague. He's guilty of cowardice, of following orders without question, but not murder. She released him. He collapsed, gasping. "Next," Riven said. They brought her 12 people, some guilty, some innocent, some shades of gray. Each time, her fire revealed the truth, not just yes or no, but context, motive, the complex reality of people caught in impossible situations. By the end, the crowd was silent. "This is what I offer," Riven said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion pulling at her. "Not destruction, clarity, a way to find truth in a kingdom built on lies." "And if we refuse?" someone asked. "If we say you're still too dangerous?" Riven met Kael's eyes. He nodded, giving her permission to speak freely. "Then I'll leave. she said simply. I won't force myself on anyone, won't use my power to terrorize or control, but know that if I go, the truth goes with me. And you'll be right back where you started, trusting the wrong people, destroying each other from within. The silence stretched. Then, from the back of the room, someone started clapping. Slowly at first, then others joined. Not everyone. Plenty of people still looked hostile, but enough. Sergeant Vera, the patrol leader they'd met on the road, stepped forward and dropped to one knee. I accept your service, my queen. Riven blinked. I'm not. You're bonded to the king. That makes you queen whether you like it or not. Vera's smile was wry. Might as well own it. Others followed her down. Not all, but more than Riven had expected. Kael's hand found hers, squeezed gently. You're doing it. His thought touched her mind. They're accepting you. Some of them. It's a start. The ceremony was brief. The remaining loyal council members officially recognized Riven as queen, though the title felt strange on her skin. She wasn't royalty, wasn't trained for this. But as Kael placed a second ring on her finger, this one carved with both flames and a wolf, she realized maybe that was the point. She wasn't meant to be like the queens before her. She was meant to be something new. Afterward, there was another person waiting to see her. Her father stood in a side chamber, Finn beside him. Her brother had grown in 3 months, gotten taller, but his eyes were the same, wide and scared and hopeful. Riven, her father said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry. For everything. For not protecting you, for choosing fear over family, for... Stop. Riven held up a hand. I can't do this right now. Please, let me explain. You made your choice when the pack exiled me, when you stood silent and let them brand me a curse. Riven's voice was hard. And then you made it again when Sarah threatened Finn. I understand why. I even forgive you in a way. But I can't trust you. Not anymore. Her father's face crumpled. Riven, Finn stays with me. You can visit, under guard, if he wants to see you. But you don't get to be his guardian, not after using him as leverage. That wasn't... They would have killed him. And you believed them without fighting, without even trying to warn me. Riven turned to her brother. Finn, do you want to stay with me? The boy looked between his father and sister, tears streaming down his face. Then he nodded and ran to Riven, wrapping his arms around her waist. She held him tight, this stranger who was her blood, and felt something settle in her chest. I'll take care of him, she said to her father. Better than you did. Better than the pack did. Her father opened his mouth, closed it, nodded. He looked old suddenly, broken. Riven felt a pang of something, not quite sympathy, but an echo of it. You can rebuild your life, find redemption, but you do it away from us. Understand? Yes. The word was barely audible. Thank you for still being kind. I'm not kind. I'm just tired of punishing people who are already punished. Riven gestured to the door. Go. And don't make me use my fire to ensure you keep your distance. He left. Finn stayed pressed against her side, shaking. Hey, Riven said softly, kneeling so they were eye level. You okay? You're really a queen now? Apparently. That's weird. Despite everything, Riven laughed. Yeah, it really is. Are you going to burn people? Only the ones who deserve it? Finn considered this gravely. Then, can I learn fire magic too? I don't know if it works that way, but we can try. Riven ruffled his hair. First, though, let's get you settled. Fed, safe. Sound good? Sounds good. Kael appeared in the doorway. We have another situation. Of course they did. Riven stood, keeping one hand on Finn's shoulder. What now? The northern pacts are here, the ones who resented unification. They're demanding an audience. Kael's expression was tense. They want to renegotiate the terms of the kingdom, and they're not asking nicely. Riven felt her fire pulse, ready. How many? 50 representatives, another 200 warriors camped outside the city. That's not an audience, that's an invasion force. Yes, Kael's jaw was tight. They think we're weak, that this is their chance to break free. Riven looked at Finn, then back at Kael. Can we give them what they want? More autonomy, less central control? Not without losing half the kingdom. Other pacts will see it as weakness, demand the same. Everything falls apart. Then we show strength. How? Riven's fire ignited, silver flames dancing across her skin. We give them exactly what they came for, an audience with the new queen, one they won't forget. Kale's expression shifted. What are you planning? Trust me. She turned to Finn. Stay here. I'll be back soon. The boy grabbed her hand. Don't die. Not planning on it. Riven squeezed his fingers, then released him and strode toward the throne room with Kael at her side. The Northern Pack representatives were everything she'd expected, hard men and women with scarred faces and contempt in their eyes. They'd lived through the Unification Wars, been forced to bend knee to a king they didn't choose. They weren't here to negotiate, they were here to intimidate. Their leader, a massive man with silver streaking his black hair, stepped forward. So, the outcast is queen now. How quaint. Alpha Tauren, Kael said evenly, you requested an audience. We demand reparations, autonomy, the right to self-govern without interference from your council. Tauren's eyes swept over Riven dismissively. And we won't be dictated to by some girl with parlor tricks. Riven felt the insult like a slap. The rest of the court held their breath, waiting to see how she'd respond. She smiled. Parlor tricks. Is that what you call exposing murderers, saving lives, defeating a queen in single combat? I call it luck. And luck runs out. Then let's test that. Riven descended from the throne, her fire blazing brighter. You want autonomy? Prove you deserve it. Submit to my fire. Let it read your intentions. If you truly want peace, if your demands are just, the fire will show it. But if you're planning treachery, rebellion, violence, well, everyone will know. Tauren's face darkened. I don't submit to anyone. Then you don't get what you came for. Riven stopped a few feet from him, flames wreathing her hands. This is the new reality, Alpha. The kingdom has a truth-teller now. No more hidden agendas, no more plotting in shadows. You want something from the crown? Earn it honestly or don't bother. The other northern representatives murmured, exchanging glances. You're insane, Tauren said. I've been called worse. Riven extended her hand. So what's it going to be? Submit to the truth or prove you're just another power-hungry wolf trying to exploit chaos? For a moment she thought he'd refuse, thought he'd attack her right there and start a war in the throne room. Then one of the other representatives spoke up. I'll do it. A woman, younger than Tauren, with honest eyes. She stepped forward and offered her hand to Riven. We didn't come here to start a war, she said. We came because we're scared. Scared of another plague, another conspiracy, more lies from people in power. If your fire can prove our leaders are trustworthy, that's worth swallowing some pride. Riven took her hand gently, let the silver fire flow between them, reading the woman's truth. You've lost family to the plague, Riven said softly. Parents and siblings. You came here hoping for justice, not power. You'd accept unity if it meant safety for your pack. The woman's eyes widened. How did you? The fire knows. Riven released her hand. And it says you're sincere. One by one, the other representatives came forward, some with pure intentions, some with mixed motives, a few with outright hostility. Riven read them all, her fire revealing the complex truth of people caught between fear and hope. Tauren was last. He approached reluctantly, jaw clenched, and thrust out his hand. Fine. Read me, truth-teller. See if you can handle what you find. Riven clasped his hand. The fire surged between them, and she gasped. Tauren's truth was a wall of pain. He'd lost his entire family to the plague. Wife, children, grandchildren. Had watched them die while the kingdom's healers stood by helpless. Had sworn vengeance against whoever was responsible. He'd come here prepared to kill the conspirators himself, to tear apart anyone who'd had a hand in the massacre. You didn't want autonomy, Riven said, her voice shaking. You wanted blood. Damn right I did. Tauren's eyes blazed. They murdered my family, used them as test subjects. I found the records, my wife's name, my children's names, listed like livestock. The throne room went deadly silent. But they're already arrested, Riven said, already facing justice. Your justice. A trial. Maybe a cell. Maybe execution years from now, while lawyers argue. Tauren pulled his hand free. That's not enough. What would be enough? He met her eyes. Blood for blood, life for life. Riven understood. She'd felt the same rage when she learned about her bloodline, her mother's family. The desire to burn everything down and start over. "I can't give you that," she said quietly. "But I can give you something else." "What?" "Closure, truth, a chance to testify at the trial. To confront the people who killed your family and watch my fire prove their guilt in front of everyone." Riven's flames pulsed brighter. "And if that's not enough, if you still want blood after that, come find me, challenge me. But do it legally, in the open, so your pack can see you tried every other path first." Torin stared at her. "You'd let me challenge you?" "If you need to, yes." "Why?" "Because I understand." Riven's voice cracked. "I understand rage and grief and the need for justice, and I won't take that from you, but I also won't let you destroy yourself for revenge. Your family wouldn't want that." For a long moment, Torin didn't move. Then his shoulders sagged, decades of anger seeming to drain out of him. "You're right," he said hoarsely. "They wouldn't." He dropped to one knee. "I submit to the crown, and to its truth-teller." The other representatives followed him down. Kael's hand found Riven's shoulder, steadying her. That was incredible, his thought whispered through their bond. That was terrifying, she sent back. But it had worked. The northern pacts were kneeling. The court was witnessing it, and Riven had just proven she could be more than a weapon. She could be a bridge. The next few days were a blur of meetings, testimonies, and trials. Syrah and the other conspirators faced the court formally, their crimes laid bare. Riven's fire verified every accusation, every piece of evidence, until there was no doubt left. The sentences were harsh but fair. Syrah would spend the rest of her life in prison, stripped of title and power. The other conspirators faced similar fates, some execution for the worst offenders, others imprisonment, all of them broken publicly. And through it all, Riven stood beside Kael, learning to be what the kingdom needed. Not just a queen, but a symbol. Proof that power could be tempered with mercy. On the 7th day, Kael found her on the palace balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that matched her fire. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked. "I was thinking about my mother," Riven said. "She used to tell me I was born for something important, that my fire was a gift, not a curse." She was right. Maybe. Or maybe I just got lucky. Riven leaned against him. Either way, I wish she could see this. She can. Kael wrapped an arm around her. Wherever she is, she's proud. They stood like that for a while, two broken people who'd found each other in the chaos. Below them, the city was coming alive again, markets reopening, people laughing, life returning. "What happens now?" Riven asked. "Now we rebuild. Make the kingdom into what it should have been from the start." Kael kissed the top of her head. "Together." "That's a big job." "Good thing we've got time." Riven smiled, her fire pulsing warm and steady. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running, wasn't hiding. She was home, and the kingdom that had once feared her was beginning to see what she'd known all along, that fire could warm as well as burn, could illuminate instead of destroying, could forge something new from the ashes of the old. But rebuilding was harder than either of them had imagined. 3 weeks after the trials, Riven sat in what Kael called the small council chamber, which was still bigger than her entire old Pax meeting hall, staring at reports that made her head hurt. "The Eastern Territories are refusing to pay taxes," one counselor droned. "They claim the new administration hasn't proven itself worthy of—" "Tell them to come here and say that to my face," Riven interrupted. The counselor, an older man named Garrett, who'd somehow survived the conspiracy purge, looked scandalized. "Your Majesty, we can't simply—" "Why not? They don't trust the crown?" "Fine. Let them meet the crown. Let me read their truth and they read mine." Riven leaned forward. "We keep doing things the old way, hidden negotiations, backroom deals, and we prove nothing's changed." Kael, sitting beside her, squeezed her hand under the table. "Easy. Garrett's on our side." "Then why is he being so difficult?" "Because change is hard, even for people who want it." Riven took a breath, forced herself to sound diplomatic. "What I mean is, transparency should be our policy. If territories have concerns, address them directly. No intermediaries, no games." Garrett looked uncertain. "That's unconventional." "Everything about me is unconventional." Riven stood, her fire flickering to life unconsciously. Which is exactly why Kyle bonded with me. To shake things up, so let's shake. The meeting dissolved into arguments about protocol and tradition. Riven tuned it out, watching through the window as Finn played in the courtyard below, learning to fight from Sergeant Vera. Her brother had adapted fast, faster than her, honestly. He was thriving here. She was still figuring out where she fit. Riven, Kale's voice pulled her back. Did you hear the question? She hadn't. Sorry. What? Lord Garrett asked about the memorial service for the plague victims. Kale's expression was carefully neutral. There's debate about whether you should speak. Why wouldn't I? Because, Garrett shifted uncomfortably, because you're still largely unknown to most of the kingdom. And the plague is a sensitive subject. Some fear you'll inflame tensions rather than heal them. Riven felt her fire pulse hotter. I'm a plague victim. My entire bloodline was wiped out. If anyone has the right to speak, it's not about rights, Your Majesty. It's about optics. I don't care about optics. Which is precisely the problem, Garrett said, more boldly now. You're queen. Everything you do is scrutinized. Every word you speak is analyzed. You can't just react. You have to think strategically. Riven wanted to argue, wanted to burn something. Instead, she looked at Kael. What do you think? I think Garrett has a point about strategy, but I also think the kingdom needs to hear from you. Needs to see you're real, not just some weapon I'm wielding. Kael's gold eyes held hers. The question is whether you're ready for that scrutiny. Was she? A month ago, she'd been hiding in a cave. Now she was supposed to give speeches? I'll do it, she said finally. But I'm not reading from a script. I'm speaking from the heart. Garrett looked pained. Your Majesty. From the heart, Riven repeated. Or not at all. Kael's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then it settled. Riven speaks at the memorial. Now, about the northern border disputes. The meeting dragged on for another hour. By the time it ended, Riven was ready to set something on fire just for the satisfaction. She found Finn in the training yard, breathless and grinning, a wooden practice sword in his hands. Watch this, he called when he saw her. He executed a series of moves Vera had clearly been teaching him. Block, parry, strike. Clumsy, but determined. Not bad, Riven said, genuinely impressed. How long have you been practicing? Every day since we got here. Finn lowered the sword, suddenly shy. Is it okay? I know you said I should rest and heal and stuff, but it's more than okay. It's smart. Riven ruffled his hair. You should know how to defend yourself. Like you do? Better than me, hopefully. I learned by getting hit a lot. Finn laughed, then sobered. Riven, are you happy here? The question caught her off guard. Why do you ask? Because sometimes you look trapped, like how you looked when the elders used to lecture you. He scuffed his boot in the dirt. I just want to make sure you're okay. Riven's chest tightened. Her brother barely knew her, but he still noticed, still cared. I'm adjusting, she said honestly. It's a lot. Being queen, learning politics, pretending to know what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. Because of Kael? Because of a lot of things. Him, you, the chance to actually use my power for good instead of hiding it. She sat on a nearby bench, patted the space beside her. Finn joined her. What about you? Are you happy? I miss Dad sometimes, Finn admitted quietly. Even though I know what he did was wrong. Is that bad? No, he's still your father, still the person who raised you. Riven wrapped an arm around his shoulders. You can love someone and still be angry at their choices. Both things can be true. Do you love him? Riven considered. I did. Maybe part of me still does, but I can't trust him. And without trust, love doesn't mean much. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink lower. Then Finn spoke again. The memorial service. Are you nervous? Terrified. You'll do great. You always do. Riven wished she had his confidence. Thanks, kid. I'm not a kid. I'm 13. Ancient, my apologies. Finn grinned and elbowed her. For a moment it felt normal, like they were just siblings, not a queen and her brother living in a palace built on conspiracy and blood. Kale found them there an hour later, both still sitting in the growing darkness. "Dinner's ready," he said. "Unless you two plan to sleep out here." "Tempting," Riven said, standing, "but I suppose queens shouldn't skip meals." "Probably not." Kyle fell into step beside her as Finn ran ahead. "You okay? You've been quiet since the council meeting. Just thinking about the memorial. What I'm going to say. Want to practice? And have you edit me?" "No thanks." Kale laughed. "I wouldn't dare. I know better than to come between you and your honesty." "Smart man." "I try." They ate dinner in the smaller dining hall. Just the three of them, a luxury Kyle insisted on. No servants, no guards watching every bite. Just family. Riven was still getting used to that word. Family. She'd lost hers, rebuilt it, and now was navigating what it meant in this new context. "Can I ask you something?" Finn said around a mouthful of bread. "Manners," Riven and Kale said simultaneously, then looked at each other in surprise. Finn swallowed. "Sorry, but seriously, what happens after you fix the kingdom? Do you just keep being queen forever?" "That's generally how monarchy works," Kale said dryly. "But what if you don't want to? What if you want to go back to the wilds or do something else?" Riven hadn't let herself think about that. "Why would I want to leave?" "I don't know. But you could, right? You're not actually trapped here." Kyle's expression shifted. "He has a point. You chose this bond, but you don't owe the kingdom anything. If you ever wanted to walk away—" "I won't." Riven's voice was firm. "I made a commitment. I'm seeing it through." "Even if it makes you miserable?" "It doesn't make me miserable. It's just hard." "But hard doesn't mean wrong." She met Kyle's eyes. "Unless you want me to leave? Never." His hand found hers across the table. "I just want you to know you have options. Always." The conversation moved to lighter topics after that, but Riven couldn't shake Finn's question. What happened after they fixed things? Did she really want to be queen for the rest of her life? She didn't have an answer. The memorial service was held in the city square, massive enough to hold thousands. Riven had never seen so many people in one place. Wolves from every territory, every pack, all gathered to honor the dead. A stone monument had been erected, carved with names, hundreds of them. Riven found her mother's family there, running her fingers over letters that spelled out strangers who shared her blood. "Ready?" Kyle asked softly. "No, but let's do it anyway." They climbed the platform together. The crowd fell silent, thousands of eyes fixed on them. Riven felt her fire pulse with nerves, had to consciously suppress it to avoid igniting in front of everyone. Kyle spoke first, his voice carrying through some acoustic trick of the square's design. He talked about loss, justice, the importance of remembering. It was a good speech, practiced, polished, exactly what people expected from a king. Then it was Riven's turn. She stepped forward, looked out at the sea of faces, and forgot every diplomatic phrase Garrett had suggested. "I'm not good at this," she started. "Public speaking, being queen, most of this." A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. "A month ago, I was living in a cave, eating scraps, trying not to freeze. Now I'm standing here in silk clothes, telling you about loss like I'm some kind of expert." She took a breath. "But I'm an expert. Not because I'm special, but because the plague took my family too. My mother's entire bloodline, gone. People I never got to meet, who might have taught me about my power, who might have helped me understand who I am. The conspiracy didn't just kill bodies, it killed futures, possibilities, dreams." The crowd was absolutely silent now. "And I'm angry about it," Riven continued, her voice strengthening. "I'm furious that people in power decided who deserved to live based on politics and profit, that they covered it up for 20 years, that they almost got away with it." Her fire ignited, silver flames dancing across her hands. Several people in the crowd gasped. "This is my power. The thing that got me exiled, called a curse, feared by everyone who knew me. But it's also the thing that exposed the truth. That brought justice." Riven held up her hands, letting everyone see the flames. "I used to hate it, used to wish I was normal. Now I'm grateful, because this fire, this curse, is the only reason any of you know what really happened to your families." She let the flames die down. "So, here's what I'm offering. Not just today, but every day going forward. Truth. No more hidden agendas, no more conspiracies. If you have questions about the kingdom, the crown, the policies, ask me. I'll read your intent with my fire. You'll see mine, and we'll find answers together. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some approving, some skeptical. I'm not asking you to trust me because I'm queen. I'm asking you to trust the process, to believe that we can build something better from these ashes. Riven's voice cracked. Your families deserved better. My family deserved better. And the only way to honor them is to make sure this never happens again. She stepped back. The crowd erupted, not in applause, but in conversation. Arguments, debates. Exactly what she'd hoped for. Kale leaned close. That was perfect. That was a mess. Same thing. Over the next hour, people approached the platform. Some to thank her, some to challenge her, many to simply ask questions. Riven answered each one honestly, her fire ready to verify truth. An elderly woman asked if her grandson had died in pain. Riven touched her hand, read the memory through the woman's grief, and was able to tell her no. He'd gone peacefully, surrounded by family. It was a small comfort, but the woman wept with relief. A young man demanded to know if the executions were really justice or just revenge. Riven met his eyes and said both. That sometimes justice felt like revenge, and that was okay as long as the process was fair. He left looking thoughtful instead of angry. A child, maybe 8 years old, asked if Riven could bring his mother back. Riven knelt, took his small hands in hers, and told him no. That her power couldn't resurrect the dead, could only prevent new deaths. The child cried, and Riven held him until his father came to collect him. By the end, she was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, but also lighter, like she'd been carrying a weight and finally set it down. You reached them, Kyle said as they walked back to the palace, Finn between them holding both their hands. Really reached them. Maybe. Or maybe I just gave them something to argue about. That's the same thing. Engagement means they care. Riven supposed he was right. Can we not have any more public events for a while? I need to recover. Absolutely not. We have the Eastern Territory visit next week, then the trade negotiations, then I hate you. No, you don't. I might start. Kyle laughed and pulled her close. Despite her complaints, Riven leaned into him. This was her life now. Overwhelming, exhausting, public. Also meaningful in a way her old life had never been. They were halfway back when the attack came. One moment they were walking through a crowded street, guards around them, but the atmosphere relaxed after the memorial's success. The next, someone was shouting, and wolves were shifting, and Kyle was shoving Riven behind him. Stay with Finn, he ordered, already shifting. Riven grabbed her brother, pulled him against her as silver fire exploded across her hands. Through the chaos, she caught glimpses. 6 wolves, coordinated, attacking the guards. Not random violence, assassination attempt, again. Seriously? She snarled. We just had a memorial. One of the attacking wolves broke through the guard line, heading straight for Finn. Riven didn't hesitate. She threw fire directly at its face, the hottest, most concentrated flame she could manage. The wolf went down screaming, but 2 more took its place. These were professionals, moving like the council guards had, exploiting openings. Kyle was engaged with 3 of them, his massive black form a blur of teeth and claws. The remaining guards were holding the line, but barely. Riven made a split-second decision. Finn, run. Back to the palace. Now. But now. He ran. One of the attacking wolves peeled off to chase him. Riven's fire novaed outward, catching the wolf mid-leap. It crashed to the ground, fur smoking. She didn't wait to see if it got up. She was already moving to Kyle's side, fire blazing, burning through enemies like they were kindling. Together, they were devastating. Kyle's raw strength combined with Riven's precision fire. Every opening he created, she exploited. Every attack she deflected, he capitalized on. In under 2 minutes, all 6 attackers were down. Dead or incapacitated, Riven didn't care which. You okay? Kale asked, shifting back, blood streaming from a gash on his arm. Fine. You? I'll live. He was already scanning the area. Finn? I sent him back. One of them chased a scream. Finn's scream from an alley nearby. Riven ran without thinking, Kyle right behind her. They found Finn backed against a wall, the attacking wolf advancing slowly, savoring the fear. The wolf didn't see them coming. Riven hit it with fire so hot it turned fur to ash instantly. The creature collapsed, dead before it finished falling. Finn stared at his sister, eyes huge. "You killed it." "Yes." Riven's hands were still blazing. "And I'd do it again." Kale checked the body, found a mark on its shoulder. "Loyalist. Sarah's faction. They must have planned this during the memorial when our guard was down. How many more are there?" "I don't know. But we need to get Finn somewhere safe and then sweep the city." Kale's jaw was tight. "This ends now." They made it back to the palace with no further attacks. Finn was handed to Vera, who promised not to let him out of her sight. Then Kael assembled his most loyal guards, and they went hunting. They found the conspirators in a warehouse district, a cell of about 20 wolves, all wearing Sarah's colors, all armed and clearly planning something bigger. Kael didn't negotiate, didn't offer surrender. He just attacked, his wolf form tearing through the rebels like they were paper. Riven followed with fire, not caring about precision anymore, just wanting them stopped. Defeated. Gone. It was brutal, ugly. Nothing like the controlled challenge in the arena. This was war. When it was over, 15 rebels lay dead. 5 had surrendered. The warehouse was scorched and smoking. Riven stood in the center of the destruction, her fire still blazing, and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just exhaustion. "It's done," Kael said, shifting back. He was covered in blood, some his, most not. "That was the last cell. We've been tracking them since the trials." "You knew they'd attack?" "We suspected, couldn't prove it until they moved." His gold eyes met hers. "I'm sorry. I should have told you, should have prepared you." "You used us as bait." Riven's voice was flat. "I used increased security and strategic positioning, but yes, we were visible targets." Kael stepped closer. "I'm sorry, but we had to draw them out, had to end this threat before it grew." Riven wanted to be angry, wanted to rage at being kept in the dark. But she understood. Hated it, but understood. "Don't do it again," she said finally. "We're partners. That means honesty." "Deal." He pulled her close, heedless of the blood. "Are we okay?" "Ask me when I'm less likely to set you on fire." "Fair." They returned to find Finn safe but shaken. Riven held him for a long time, letting her brother cry into her shoulder, feeling her own tears mix with his. "I thought they were going to kill you," Finn whispered. "They tried. We're harder to kill than we look." "I was so scared." "Me too." Riven pulled back, met his eyes. "But that's okay. Being scared just means you're smart enough to recognize danger." "You didn't look scared. You looked—" He trailed off. "What?" "Terrifying." Riven's chest tightened. "Finn, in a good way. Like they should be scared of you, like you're the dangerous one." He managed a weak smile. "It was kind of awesome." Despite everything, Riven laughed. "You're weird," says the queen with fire hands. They cleaned up, healed their wounds, and gathered the council for an emergency session. The attack had rattled everyone. Proof that despite the trials and executions, threats remained. "We need to respond," Garrett said. "Show strength, increase patrols, establish curfews." "No," Riven interrupted. "We need to show trust." The room went quiet. "They attacked during a memorial," she continued. "A moment of unity. They wanted to prove we're still divided, still vulnerable. If we respond with restrictions and fear, we prove them right." "Then what do you suggest?" another counselor asked. "Transparency. We tell the people exactly what happened, show them the bodies, explain who these rebels were and what they wanted." Riven stood, her fire pulsing. "And then we invite anyone with remaining doubts or grievances to come speak with me directly. Let my fire prove we have nothing to hide." "That's insane," someone muttered. "That's what I do," Riven shot back. "I'm the queen who tells the truth, so let's use that. Make it our strength instead of hiding from it." Kael was watching her with something like awe. "I agree with Riven. We've spent too long operating in shadows. Time to operate in the light." The vote was close, but they agreed. The next day, the attack and the counter-response were made public. Bodies were displayed, gruesome but necessary. The rebels' plans were exposed, and Riven set up in the city square, offering to read anyone who wanted proof the crown had no hidden agendas. Hundreds came, some hostile, some curious, all wanting answers. Riven read them all. Her fire revealed truth after truth, layer after layer, until the whole city understood. The conspiracy was dead. The threats were handled. The crown was operating honestly. It took 3 days of constant work, 3 days of exhaustion and exposure and putting herself on display. But by the end, something had shifted. People stopped looking at her with fear, started looking at her with something else. Not quite trust yet, but possibility. Like maybe this strange queen with fire hands could actually deliver what she promised. A week later, Riven stood on the same balcony where she'd talked with Kael about rebuilding, looking out at a city that was finally, tentatively, starting to heal. "Penny for your thoughts?" Kael asked, joining her. "I was thinking about your question, about what happens after we fix things." And I think I have my answer." Riven turned to face him. "We don't fix things, not completely. There's always going to be another crisis, another threat, another problem. That's what life is." "That's cheerful. But the difference is, now we're facing it together. You, me, Finn, the people who believe in what we're building." She took his hand. "I'm not staying because I'm trapped. I'm staying because this matters. Because I can make a difference. Because you're exactly where you're supposed to be," Kael finished. "Yeah, something like that." He kissed her, soft and sweet, and Riven kissed him back with everything she had. They'd been through hell together, had faced death, betrayal, war, and come out the other side stronger. Not perfect, not whole, but together. And that was enough. 6 months later, Riven stood in the throne room with Kael, Finn beside them, as the Eastern Territories formally pledged loyalty to the crown. The ceremony was elaborate, traditional, everything Garrett had insisted on, but Riven had added her own touch. At the end, she offered each representative her hand, let her fire read their truth. Not as a test, but as a promise, that she would always know if they were being honest, and they would always know the same about her. Every single one accepted. The territories were unified. The kingdom was whole, and Riven had gone from outcast to queen, from curse to blessing. She should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, she felt tired. "You okay?" Kael murmured during the feast that followed. "Just thinking." About? About how strange this all is. 6 months ago, I was eating frozen rabbit in a cave. Now I'm at a state dinner, making small talk with ambassadors. Having regrets? No, just processing. Riven set down her wine glass. "Can we leave? Just for a bit?" Kael didn't question it. He made their excuses, and they slipped away from the feast, Finn following because he refused to be left behind. They ended up on the palace walls, looking out at the city lights spread below like stars. "Better?" Kael asked. "Yeah." Riven breathed in the cold air, let her fire dance across her fingers just because she could. "I needed space." "You can always take it. The kingdom won't collapse if you step away for an hour." "I know, She trailed off, searching for words. "I used to dream about being accepted, about people not fearing my power, and now that I have it, now that they look at me with respect instead of terror, it's not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Joy, maybe? Relief? Instead, I just feel responsible, like I have to be perfect or I'll prove the doubters right." Kael turned her to face him. "You're not perfect. You're stubborn, impulsive, terrible at diplomacy, and you set things on fire when you're frustrated." "Thanks. Feeling better already. But you're also brave, honest, fiercely protective of the people you love, and you've changed an entire kingdom in 6 months." His hands framed her face. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. That's already more than enough." Riven felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm scared I'll screw this up." "You will, multiple times, and then you'll fix it because that's what you do." Kael's smile was soft. "We both will, together." "Together," Riven echoed. Finn, who'd been pretending not to listen, spoke up. "Can I say something?" "Always," Riven said. "You're both being weird. You saved a kingdom, exposed murderers, and gave people hope. Maybe just enjoy that for a minute. He shrugged. I mean, I'm 13, and even I know you're doing great. Riven and Kyle looked at each other and burst out laughing. When did you get so wise? Riven asked, pulling Finn into a hug. I've always been wise, you just weren't paying attention. They stayed on the walls for another hour, just the three of them, watching the city live and breathe below. Somewhere down there, people were rebuilding, starting over, learning to trust again, because of what Riven had done, what they'd all done together. A year later, Riven stood in front of a crowd again, but this time it wasn't for a memorial or a trial. It was for a celebration. The kingdom's first Truth Day, a holiday she'd helped create, a day when anyone could approach the crown and demand answers, verification, proof. A day when transparency wasn't just promised but practiced. Hundreds of people waited in line, each with questions. Riven read them all, her fire revealing truth after truth, building trust one interaction at a time. Kale watched from the side, Finn beside him, both looking proud. By sunset, Riven's voice was hoarse and her power depleted, but she'd spoken to everyone who came, had proven once again that the crown had nothing to hide. Same time next year? Garrett asked, approaching with paperwork. Same time next year, Riven confirmed. Make it an official holiday. Everyone gets the day off work. That's going to be expensive. I don't care. People deserve time to verify their leaders aren't lying to them. Riven signed the document he offered. Make it happen. Garrett smiled, actually smiled, which was rare. As you wish, Your Majesty. He left. Kale approached, offering his arm. Ready to go home? More than ready. They walked through the palace gardens, Finn running ahead to chase butterflies, and Riven felt something settle in her chest. Peace. Not perfect, not complete, but real. She'd found her place, not by becoming someone else, but by embracing exactly who she was. The girl with fire hands, the outcast who became queen, the curse that transformed into a blessing. I love you, she said to Kyle, the words coming easily now. I love you too. He kissed her temple. Think we'll ever have a normal day? Probably not. Good. Normal is overrated. Riven laughed and let her fire dance across her free hand, silver flames reflecting in Kyle's gold eyes. Around them, the garden bloomed with spring growth, new life emerging from old soil. They'd rebuilt a kingdom from ashes, had taken something broken and made it whole, not by hiding their scars, but by showing them, by proving that damage didn't mean worthless, that power could be tempered with mercy, that outcasts could become leaders if given the chance. Finn ran back to them, breathless and grinning. There's a fountain in the East Garden with fish. Can we go see? Sure, Riven said, letting him pull her along. Lead the way. As they walked, Riven thought about the girl she'd been, scared, suppressed, convinced her power was a curse. That girl would have never believed this future was possible. But that girl had also been stronger than she knew. Strong enough to survive exile, strong enough to save a dying king, strong enough to face her fears and emerge victorious. That girl had become this woman. And this woman, she was just getting started, because the kingdom was healing, but there was still work to do. Territories to unite, laws to reform. A whole new generation to teach that power came with responsibility, that strength meant protecting the weak, that fire could warm instead of destroy. Riven had spent her whole life running from her flames. Now she was running toward them, toward the future they made possible, toward the life she'd built from nothing but determination and defiance. She was no longer the outcast. She was the fire that forged a new world, and she was just beginning to burn. The sun set over the palace, painting the sky in colors that matched Riven's flames, silver and gold, brilliant and bold. In the gardens, a queen walked with her family, her fire dancing at her fingertips, her heart finally, whole. Not because everything was perfect, but because she'd learned the truth that had eluded her for so long. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be herself. And that fierce, flawed, burning self was more than enough to change everything.